Thanks for joining us for Finding God in Video Games Ministry Spotlight. And today, very special guest, Gaming and Gods, Michael, or you may know him as Samuru, which is his alter ego in these kind of spaces. We have been fans for a very long time, and it's just such a pleasure to get to have that opportunity to sit down with you in the real life virtual world and get to talk to you about your mission. So I need to know, first of all, Samuru, the name, like where did this come from?
Oh yeah, so thank you for having me. Happy to be here. Super cool. I'm blessed to have the opportunity. Yeah, so my name, the like the avatar, I don't know, whatever username that I came up with. It was like when I was a kid, long time ago. I must have been like, I don't know, 13 or something. I don't remember. Super young. And then it was in New York City. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. I live in Miami. And then back then I would visit my grandmother who lived in Manhattan, and I had some friends there. And then, when I would go visit New York in an apartment in New York, they have like the buildings are huge and just like gazillion apartments in every building. And then at the bottom of the building, there's a super. And then the super is the one, it's like the handyman. It's like the guy you call when your something breaks or whatever. And then the super, he had, I don't know why they're called super either. I'm like, why is this superhero? I don't know why they're called super. They're like, he's the super. I'm like, super what? Like, anyway. So then he had a bunch of kids. He had two sons and a daughter. And then I don't even remember how I started hanging out with his sons. And then the older brother would play Dungeons and Dragons. I was a kid. I didn't know what Dungeons and Dragons was. I didn't know anything. I wasn't a Christian back then either, so I didn't know about the whole, you can't play Dungeons and Dragons, it's from the devil, so I didn't even know. I was like, dungeons and what? I didn't know. And they used to call it paper and pencils. And I'm like, paper and pencils? I don't know what that means. So I was a little kid. I was a kid. I was like, whatever, I'll play. So then they asked me if I wanted to play. Then they gave me the character sheet, and it's like a form, and you have to like fill it out, all your character, your race and your height and your everything. It was like you're making a person, And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So it's like I can get creative. So then it has to have a name, and I was like, well, what name do I put? I just put Mike, And they're like, no, you can't put like your name, character
You
name. And
can't
I'm
be
like,
Mike.
yeah, I can't be Mike.
There's no
Yeah,
Mikes here.
yeah, there's no mic. So I was like, okay, so what do I come up with? I don't know. So I think I was still I was listening to Japanese music. I still listen to the J-pop and all of that. And I was like, oh, I get something Japanese. I don't know, something cool. It sounds foreign, sounds, mysterious or whatever. So then I was thinking of samurai, and then I said samurai, and I cannot be, samurai is not a name. Like Samuri, Samurino, Samuru, then it says Samuru. And I'm like, I'll just stick with Samuru. I don't know what that means. It sounds like samurai. So I put Samuru. And then I stuck with that. It was just a thing in my head. I didn't Google anything. And then years later, one day I was like, let me just Google it, see what it means. And it actually means, if you just Google what is the meaning of Samuru, and supposedly in Japanese, it means like he who is like God, or who is like God, something like that. And my name actually in Michael in Hebrew supposedly means he who is like God. So it was kind of like the same name. And again, I of course I give the Holy Spirit the credit, but I was like, that's crazy. Like, and it wasn't no coincidence. Within like a thing I was trying to do, I was like a 13-year-old. I didn't even have a computer. So I just Googled it when I was like an adult. I was like, what does this word even mean? It was just some nonsense I made up in my head. So yeah, so it actually sort of means my name in Japanese. And I was like, that's crazy. So that was like the little
You were
story.
predestined to be this person.
Yes,
All
I was
like
predestined.
if there was a movie about you, like that would have been like the end of Act One when you chose the name.
Yeah, yeah.
And it would like show it at the bottom of the screen what it meant, but nobody else would, no one else sees that. And you'd be like,
Yeah.
oh snap, they just said the thing where he's said it. That
Yeah.
is so cool.
So that was the start. I wrote a little blog post about it too, because I was like, I'd never written about it, but it would just be fun to write it. So I just wrote it. Yeah. So yeah, so this fun. And I just like how it sounds, and I just stuck with it for everything. I was like, I'm gonna be Samuru all online everywhere. So if you look me up, I'm everywhere. I'm Samuru. So yeah.
That is so cool. I never knew, all this time that we've been following you, all this time that you've been a friend to us and what we were doing here with Finding God in Video Games. I never knew, and I was always like, someday I'm going to ask. Now we
That's
finally got
cool.
that day. Been wondering
I'm glad you're
all
interested.
along.
That's cool.
So you've
Yeah.
obviously been into the world of gaming for a very, very long time. I kind of came up in that realm organically myself. What is like your first gaming memory that you possess? The very first time you remember a video gaming experience that drew you to this hobby?
I guess it was when I was again much younger. I started with the NES, so I guess just seeing the commercials and all of that, and then just going to stores. And again, back in New York, I would go there a lot when my grandmother's still around. I would go there a lot as a kid, like every year, twice a year. So we would go to to Toys R Us and all that, and I would just see it, and I wanted to get one. And then my grandmother very gracious, and we got one, and I got hooked. Like I was just playing these games, and I'm an only child, so I was like, I would watch a lot of TV, but I was like, well, let me just play games instead, So it was like how some people like they play sports and they have their thing and that's like their thing. My thing was gaming. So I just got hooked and then I was like, I gotta get another game. And then I would just go to the store. And back then, I think it was Toys R Us, maybe. I'm sure it probably was. And I don't know if you ever had this experience, but back then you wouldn't buy like the cartridge. It was like a paper.
Oh,
And then
absolutely. Yeah, you'd go, you'd look at, you'd grab the paper, and
you
then
grab the paper.
you hoped that paper corresponded with a copy of game. Every now and then you'd go there
Yeah.
and be like, oh, sorry, we don't have this. And you're like, but
Yeah, we don't have it. So
I
it was
have
the
the
weirdest
I have
thing.
the
Nobody,
paper.
if you weren't around, people would be like, "You're crazy. What paper?" And I remember standing there, and it would be just like the picture of the console and a paper, and it say like $29.99, and get the paper, and then there was like a booth, and then you give it to the
I used
guy.
to think
It's like,
that
oh yeah,
job,
here's the
I
game.
thought that job was the coolest job in the world when I was
Yeah,
a kid. I don't know about you, but like the person in the cage
yeah.
with
There was in this
you'd have to
cage. It was like
buy
a
it
little booth.
first. You'd have
Yeah,
to buy it from the cashier, and then you went to like the VIP cage where
yeah,
they
yeah. And
give
then
you
the
the
guy would give it to you,
game.
and you were like,
Like
"Yes, give me my
I
prize."
thought that was the greatest job in the world. I figured they were back there literally making video games, playing them all day. Now that I think about it, I'm like, that probably was the worst. You're just
Yeah, that
back
was probably the most
waiting
boring
for a
job. So I mean,
smelly
okay,
kid like me to come up and hand you a ticket so that we
yeah, I was like here,
here's your
and then
copy of
they
Mario
get you the game.
64. Go home.
Yeah, so it was fun. So we did that a lot. So I would always drag my grandma. I'm like, can I get another one? And then we would just like buy one. I would look for the sales. I'm like, that cover looks cool. I want that game. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I don't know anything. I just looked at the picture and I'm like, that picture looks cool. I want that game. So then that's how I got into like JRPGs and other games because I didn't know what a JRPG was. I didn't know what an
But
RPG.
they
I
had the
didn't know.
coolest art.
Yeah, it just had the
That's
coolest art. So I'm like, that art looks cool. I want that game. And then once I started collecting several of them, I'm like, I guess I like this genre. This is just cool. Legend of Zelda, Breath of Fire, Chrono Trigger, tons of games. So I was just like, this art is amazing. So, and then that's, I guess, how it slowly got me into like the world of Japanese, everything, culture, anime, all of that, because it's anime. Chrono Trigger is drawn by Akira Toriyama. Breath of Fire has like an anime type of cover, Final Fantasy, all of that. So it was just like, oh, so this is from Japan. Oh, this is anime. Oh, this is the artwork. And it was just went that way.
just carried you right along.
Yeah, they just reeled me in like bait. So yeah, so it was fun.
See, I
Now
was
that I think about
fascinated
it,
with
connecting all the dots, it was very interesting.
the sci-fi aspects drew me a lot. I remember with especially on the NES, like everything looked so futuristic, and that you remember the little robot.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I remember seeing the commercials. I'm like, this is going to change everything. I'm going to play games with robots, and this will be so
Yeah.
cool. And there was
I
only like two
love.
games that even worked with it. And I remember distinctly Gyromite. Okay, that
Yeah.
it was a terrible game, made worse when you played it with a robot. But I thought this was going to be an experience that changed my life. And I remember, we never had the money to get the robot. I was lucky we
Yeah,
had.
me neither. I never
Yes,
had it. I saw the
but I had a
commercials.
friend, and he was like, "I have the thing," and I'm like, "Can we try it?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure. It's not going to be what you think it is." Like, no, man, I saw it in the commercials. This is going to be the coolest thing. He had the power glove. He had all the things that
Oh, that's cool. I
make
like
it
the power. The
cool.
power glove I did like. Power
And
glove
so I
was
hook it up, and all the robot literally did is like slowly open the doors for you and stuff like that.
ah,
I was like, that was like one of the worst gaming peripherals of all time.
I never got to play it. I never even
You
saw it
didn't
like in
miss
real life.
much. And it would move
So
its little hand, and you thought it was doing something, and it was really doing so very, very little.
that
There's a
stinks.
lot of expensive gaming peripherals that were useless out there. I feel like that has to be
Hmm.
the top one on the
Oh
list.
yeah. There's so many. Yeah, there's a guy called and Game Historian or Gamer, I think it's called Game Historian, and he has a YouTube channel, and he dives into like these 45-minute videos of like all like this the history of video games, and it's all this like old stuff I've never heard of, never seen it, and I'm like, what is that? And most of the time it's like it sucked, but somebody made it somewhere, and then at the end of the day, like it was no good. Nobody bought it, and it just died. And I'm like, yeah, I've never even heard of that thing. So, but yeah, it's a
See,
lot of those.
I was always that early adopter guy that I had to have like when the I remember when the PlayStation 2 iToy came out. Do you remember that thing?
I remember I never got it. It was
It
like a
had
little
motion
camera,
controlled
right?
games. It was a little camera, a little rectangular camera thing, and you could play all kinds of terrible games that were really poorly controlled through motion. It was a precursor to the Kinect, I guess. Always wanted to get those things when they first came out on the market, so I paid the highest possible price for the worst possible experience. Probably, unfortunately, validated that we needed more of those kind of terrible things.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
we
They're like,
got
I hope people keep buying it, so let's keep making
exactly. This
more
one
garbage
random
accessories.
dude seems to think it's great. He's bought all of them. Like, no, there you
Yeah.
go. But we didn't have internet forums back then to tell anybody, so we all
Yeah,
bought
that's true.
these terrible
And
things
now we can just review stuff and be like, this is trash, don't buy it. And
and let
thankfully.
everyone know very, very quickly. Please don't. Don't
Yes.
encourage them.
Yeah, that's
So,
good.
so what was the moment that, obviously you've been a gamer for almost the entirety of your life, and at some point this coalesced into this gaming and God platform that you have now. Do you remember a particular moment that kind of became the catalyst for this hobby of mine, this passion, as well
Mhm.
as my belief in Christ? Like there's something here. There's something more I can do with this, and it became what you have now. Was there like
Yeah.
a moment that happened?
Yeah. Yeah. So that happened, I don't even remember how many years ago, at least 6 years. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. But it happened as a Christian after being a Christian. I gave my life to Christ at 17 years old. So I'm in my 30s now. And then over time, I mean, I was still playing video games and I was a Christian. So then I was, as I kept playing and enjoying, the culture and just being a gamer and anime and the whole being a geek, I was just like, how does this match with my faith? I don't know how. So as just normally, I didn't have anybody to ask or bounce questions off. So then little by little, I mean, I was just like getting rid of certain games, or I would stop watching certain anime that was just like too bloody or gory or demonic, or just things that I didn't. I was like, as a Christian, I just felt from the Holy Spirit like, you don't want to play this anymore. I don't want to watch this anymore. So I started figuring that out on my own. And then as I started doing, I'm like, maybe there's other people that think this way. Maybe there's other Christians that like video games. I guess I've never met any. I was the only one. So I was
Because we
like
don't
most
talk
people.
to each other about it is the problem. We were all secretly playing. We just
Yeah, just
we
nobody
just
was
wouldn't talk
talking.
about it after church.
Yeah, yeah. So I had a couple friends that were Christians, and we would game together or whatever, but it wasn't like a topic of discussion. It was just like, hey, you want to play some games? Yeah, let's go. And it wasn't like, so how does this interact with our faith? Like we were just like, let's just turn on the PlayStation, let's play Dragon Ball Budokai or something, or Street Fighter, and then we just play. So we would play, and then but then eventually I was like, let me just Google it, see if there's something out there. Maybe there's some ministry or some blog or something. And there was one called Game Church. I think they were one of the first ones, if not the first ones. I don't. Uh, they predate me, but I don't know if anybody predated them. But I think they were the first like official ministry thing online. And then I started following them, and they had awesome. Still to this day, I have some really good articles that they used to write, and I was in shock. I was like, these articles are amazing. Like they're diving deep into faith. It's not like some geeky, boring, you know, like, hey guys, I like video games and Jesus, like it was like a really good, yeah, like it was well written, like it wasn't like corny, I guess is the word I'm trying to say. So they were like professional about it, and they would write these nice theological, short explanations about like if it was Metal Gear or Pikmin or Mario or whatever. I was like, this is awesome. Like these people know their stuff. Like they blew me away. So I was like, I wanted to either do what they were doing, but I mean, I didn't want to like join them per se. I was just like watching from afar. And then I was like, well, what if I want to write that, like, so I think shortly after them came out Geeks Under Grace. And then I joined up with them as a writer. And then I just decided like, I want to write my own thing. Like, I don't want to just be like, because even no matter which group you're with, at the end of the day, like there's rules. They want things done a certain way, or they want you to write, hey, we have this game, we would love for you to write about it. I'm like, I really don't want to write about it, but I'm part of the group, so I gotta, I volunteered, so I gotta do it because I volunteered, so I was like, well, what if I want to write my own thing, so I was like, I just make my own blog. why not? You know, so I didn't know what WordPress was. I just Googled it. WordPress came up. It was like it was free, I think, at first, and then eventually I paid. And then yeah, I just made up my own name. I was like, well, I talk about video games and God, so I guess God and I tried God and gaming, and somebody took that name, and then I tried, well, just flip it, gaming and God. I was like, okay. I didn't even really like it because I don't like the and. You know, I wanted like gaming, God gaming or something. I wanted it short, like the URL. I wanted it shorter, but I was like, I whatever, you know. So I just put gaming and God and I called it a day. So it wasn't there was no like crazy amazing story. It was just like video games and God, you know. Somebody actually has a blog. I think it's called Video Games and God or Video Games in the Bible or something. Old blog, and they took the name, but I like mine. I like the gaming and God. So it's a little shorter. I wanted to be like a short something that I could share with somebody. I was like, it's easy to remember, gaming and God. You know, it's not like something long. So yeah, I just started writing whatever. My old articles, please don't read them. Especially the first ones. Don't read them. Just pretend they're not there. They're just there because I just didn't delete them, but you know, just leave them there. So they're trash, but
Do you feel like someday, I tell myself that someday I'm going to go back, I'm going to fix that old stuff that I did way back in the day that now I look back on, I'm like, oh wow, that was before I was even putting pictures in it. That was
yeah,
before I even knew what a GIF was. That
yeah,
was
I didn't know
back
anything.
in the dark ages for me. I'm like, I'm gonna fix these someday. It's never gonna just so you
Yeah.
guys know, it's probably never gonna happen. But I
Yeah,
tell
I'm probably never going to fix it either. I mean, I've tried to fix a few pictures because the links are broken, and I would just copy the I would click right click copy image and then paste it, and then that's not the best way to do it. You should download the image, upload it to WordPress, and then paste it, and then insert it. Because if you put the link and then the link is dead for XYZ reason, then your link is
learned
dead,
that
and
the
when
hard
people go to
way.
see it, they just see a little broken link and they don't see the picture, so it looks unprofessional. So I was like, so I looked through back my own stuff. I'm like, this is trash. Like, why did I even? Who's reading this? Like, and I know that really, I don't know if anybody reads it because I never get any likes on those old articles. I'm like, that's good. Just they're dead. They're just like I just think of them as like practice for me. They were practice. So, so yeah. But people started liking the blog, and then I kept writing for Geese Under Grace, and then I just kept writing for my own blog eventually, and I still write sometimes for Beneath the Tangles, which is an anime blog. So I'm with them too. So yeah, so it's that was a long story short, that was how I got into it, and I just still write. I try I'm super bad with posting, but I need to post more. I overthink everything. So I want it perfect, and it's not. I just need to just make
They,
content, you
they
know, make
never
content.
come out perfect.
They
There's
never come out
time
perfect.
there. I'm like, if I just did this little bit more, my wife will say, if you don't go ahead and just post it, it's never going to get done. You'll work on one
Right. She's
for
right.
a
I'm the
month.
same way. Yeah.
If we let you, like, just put it out there, it'll be what it is.
I have to accept that thinking too. That's why I never, not never, but I hardly ever post anything because I'm like trying to make it perfect, you know. And it's 11:30 at night, and I'm here like working on something. I'm like, it's not done. It's not done. You know,
So that brings up a good
schedule.
point, and you've been very helpful for us when we were starting out with finding God in video games. You were the first person who had like reached out to us and kind of shared, some good ideas and some best practices and things that you were doing that really helped us to at least
Oh,
not
I'm
be
glad.
as embarrassing as we are now with what we create. But I want to ask you a question that I still struggle with, which
Yeah,
is how are you, we're both employed in areas like this doesn't make us money. This is just the
yeah.
thing that
I
we
don't make a
do
dollar.
this is our exactly. If anything, it costs me money.
Yeah, it costs me money to host to pay the hosting for WordPress. So
Exactly.
yeah.
So because we have to, work and have our real life gigs and all those things that help fund the ability to do these things, how
Mhm.
do you find the time to balance this, doing gaming and God with all of the real life obligations and still feel like you're doing the calling that God has placed you to while still being the husband and father, those things that are very, very important and the most critical part of our mission, still find time to feed yourself from the ministry and not just you don't just consume content to create, right? You're
Yeah.
also consuming for your own benefit. That's a tough balance for me. I struggle with it every day.
Yeah, I have no balance, so I don't have a right. I don't have a good answer. I mean, my answer is not going to be good. So, honestly, sometimes it's just after my wife and my son are asleep, and it's like 10:30 at night or something. I'm like, I should work on that article. and then it's 11:30, and then I'm still writing, and I'm like half asleep. I'm like, I need to stop because I can't even see what's in front of me anymore. And then I'm like, I'm gonna check tomorrow my grammar because I was half asleep, so my grammar is probably, what I wrote is probably not the best, or I misspelled a word, I didn't even notice. So then now what I do is I pass it through Grammarly, and then that helps like catch everything, because I used to not do that, and then I would reread my own article. I'm like, oh no, that's not good. This I gotta go in and fix it. So yeah, so I have no balance. I just try, what I try to do, honestly, what I've been trying to do lately is I try to do something for it every day. Like, just even if it's just share a post and I did something, I did a thing. I clicked share. I'm done, So even if I don't get time to write anything, I'm like, well, I did something, just doing this it counts. Like for me, it's like I did something. So I
Exactly.
try to do something, so that even if it's not a lot, it's like, well, I kept the train going. So, and I have so many ideas, so many posts, so many things. Sometimes just even reading your stuff or anybody else's stuff, or watching a video or a streamer, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could write about that. I can write about that. I can write about that. Or I can create a video. I want to try to do video content, like short, like 5-10 second, like TikTok, YouTube shorts of just like this is like me talking, or like showing a gameplay video and then me talking in the background. That's an idea I really want to do, because I can talk, as you can see. I love to talk. So I'm like,
You do
man,
great.
I can post me talking like all day. Like I can make content, but I don't know how to edit
I
videos
would
or
say, yeah,
whatever.
it's the editing and the
Yeah, I
curation
don't want to do
of it.
editing. I
That's the
refuse to
part.
edit.
Nobody
Yeah.
likes doing that part.
Yeah, and I don't know how. I don't have a video background. I was a teacher, so I was like, I don't know how to edit stuff. So I have CapCut and I have Canva. That's it. So I was like, well, I'll just put like a gameplay video that I'll record, and then I'll just talk in the background, and I'm done. I'll put captions, and that's it. Like, I just want to make it simple. So yeah, so I'm trying to like do things. I try to make it as easy as I can. Like, another little tool quickly I'll use is one called Buffer, and it's free. And then let's say if you're reading an article, let's say from Geeks Under Grace or mine, or anybody's, and you just want to share it, you just click Buffer and you connect all your social medias. I think you connect three. You can connect three on the free plan. And then you just click it, and then it'll grab the link, and you can just type a little something, and it'll share to all three social medias like at the same time.
I'm a big fan
So
of
it's
things that
helpful. You don't
make
have to
them
go
like
to
that.
like, let's go to Instagram, let's go to Facebook, let's go to Twitter, and then and you're there for like 15 minutes, to rank something that nobody might not even read. So then I'm like, I just click that, I type a little sentence, and I click share. So yeah. So
So I'm
little
going to
things
ask
like
you
that, try to make it easy.
the
So
question I want to ask you next. I know we're running low on time here, but one of the things that, if I could go back and tell me back when I first started this, certain things that I would do differently. Like, I learned, unfortunately, way too late. I needed to make my daily devotions shorter, tight, concise, and give myself, if I had told myself that back then, I would save myself a lot of stress and a lot of time writing things that nobody
yeah.
would read. I unfortunately learned that more is not more. Maybe
Yeah.
I would work so hard on these 30-minute supercut videos, and even my mom wouldn't watch it. She's just like, it's just too long.
Yeah.
And I started finding those finer points. Still not great, but I'm learning, like,
Yeah.
there's a certain amount of minutes that I have for attention. So what if you could
Yeah.
go back and tell Michael, when you were starting this, no, 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 do this and it'll be better. What would you have told yourself to jumpstart it, or at least save yourself a lot of stress and pain?
That's a great question. Let me see. I guess, like you, I probably would have not written so much sometimes. Probably would have made it shorter, more straight to the point. Like, I drag on sometimes, even on my own posts. So sometimes I write. What I've learned to do now is, like, I know I'm gonna write a lot. So I just write it all out, and then I just start deleting whatever. Like, I just get it out of my head. It's
Oh,
like, I'm not gonna write
hard
everything.
to delete too. It's so hard.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, but I really like that sentence. Maybe I'll
Yeah,
use it
yeah,
later
yeah.
in another one.
And I just try to cut it. I'm just like, I'm just gonna write everything, a rough draft, and I'm just gonna cut all the nonsense, and then I'm just gonna make it tighter. So I do that. That would have helped me. And I guess producing more social media content. I didn't care about social media. I'm like, who cares about social media? I have my blog. I don't care. But it's actually, obviously, it's super important. So it's like, it's not something you can ignore or pretend it's not there. Like, you have to do social media. So like the Buffer thing I like, because I can share to all three. or I just write a little something on top of my head, and I don't overthink it. Some people like they make these beautiful posts with hashtags and all this stuff. I'm like, I just write stuff. I probably should make it a little neater, but I just try to just I'm to the point now where I'm just getting I just want to get content out, and then I'll fix it as I go along, like I'll get better as I go, so it's like I might as well just throw stuff out there. If I made a mistake, nobody's gonna tell me, oh, your blog post was too long. Like nobody cares. Like nobody's ever really told me or criticized anything. So it's like, it's better just to get stuff out. So instead of waiting all the time, that would be my advice. Would just to me would be like produce more content and stop overthinking it. Just click post. Just click post. So yeah, I see ministries that are groups that are bigger than me, and sometimes I read their content. I'm like, that's not that great, but they're getting stuff out there.
I am so glad somebody said that out loud, because there's so many.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, you guys didn't even really try on this one.
Yeah, but they click post, So I'm like, I think it's not that great, but they posted it. So I'm like, I didn't post anything, So it's like I have to tell myself, well, why are you complaining? You didn't post anything. So they did, you didn't, So I'm like, yeah, okay. So I have to like, internalize that myself. I'm like, yeah, you need to post too. Even if yours is better or worse, just click post. So that's what I'm trying to rethink, just post stuff, even if it's terrible, which is probably not terrible. It's probably just okay. Just post,
That's yeah, we're gonna put that at the bottom of the screen. Gaming and God. It's okay.
It's okay. It's okay to post. Just click post or schedule or whatever. Add to queue. I don't know.
And for anyone that's thinking of doing this, I hope that this has encouraged you that the most challenging part is to stop being your own biggest critic and just get it out there. And then the social media aspect. It's great to get your light shining, but you do need to uncover it so that way the world can see it and put it in places where it can. I know that was a big takeaway for me that you kind of helped guide us on. We're like, you need to kind of get this in other areas. I'm like, well, I'm doing the work. I'm doing what God told me to do. And you're like, yeah, but you also are expected to get it into places where people will see it. You don't just need it, you've got to get it out there.
Okay.
So Michael, tell me what are you working on? We're talking about like the different stuff we're working on, that we're always in a state of like trying to finish one thing, create another thing. So what are you writing about right now? What is on your mind? Like, what are you playing or watching and it's inspiring your next writing?
Oh, thank you for I like that question. So right now I'm trying to honestly catch up to reviews that I've been given. So I have a bunch of like Christian games that I have to play and actually write. And they given to me months ago, like a Steam key. I never played it, or I played like a little bit. So I need to first finish that because they gave them to me to review and I didn't do my part. So like I asked for the game, please give me the game, and then I don't play the game. So I need to play the game and at least write something, even if it's 3 paragraphs or something about the game. Even and some of them are like demos or or like shorter, like a beta version or whatever. So at least to get that out there. That would be one. I have some other articles that I've never finished that I really want to finish. And then I have so many other ideas that I probably should at least like jot them down, because I always have ideas for articles, but I'm always like, then I don't have to write about this idea, but I have these 10 other ideas I haven't finished. So why am I even going to think of more ideas? So it's like, I want to just finish what I have. And then I'll like, okay, what's next? So I try to jot down ideas, or if it's an article that inspired me and I'm like, I could do something different, or watch a video or something. Like there's like, for example, there's a video on YouTube that talks about should Christians play video games, and it had like 400,000 views. And I was
I
like,
bet.
yeah. And it was like this, I don't even know how I found it. I don't remember how I found it. I found it was an anime one. He did a video. It's like an animated cartoony video. And then one was about like, should Christians watch anime? And it was very well written, like very well. The script was well done. The video was nice. And then when I clicked on his page and I saw what else he had one on video games. I want to like respond to that video, and he did it. And I was like, I bet he's like talking trash about video games. And no, he actually did it like really well. And I wanted to like it's a little clickbaity, but kind of put like my reactions on this video, but not say like the video is terrible. Like I don't like to clickbait it, but at the same time, like I want to give my reaction to it. So I'm trying to do that, because sometimes I watch videos like sometimes of like pastors and they just talk garbage about video games. Like you're not a man if you play video games. I'm like, get out of here. Like, you know, if you play sports, isn't this like watch sports? Isn't it the same
Yeah.
thing? You probably watch more sports than you play video games.
At
Like,
no point do we worry about seeing a thing come up where it says, should Christians play soccer?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
we're
yeah,
all good on that, you know?
yeah, yeah. Or even watching it. I mean, because I guess the point there could be like, well, it's something physical and you're getting exercise, and that's true. I can, but then what about like the watching? You know, it's like it's a game, right? So mine's just digital, yours is real,
Well,
and
it's still working
whatever.
a muscle, not just in terms of your hand-eye coordination, which is well proven that
Yeah.
there's benefits to that, but also like the reason that we like to engage in these stories, even these, fictional stories, is it
Hmm.
does help you process things. And
Yeah.
there's a reason Jesus spoke in parables. There's a
Correct.
reason that for thousands of years we have been compelled to talk about what we are trying to process as human beings through these epic stories, whether you go
Hmm.
back to the mythology stories and fables,
Hmm.
and Aesop and those kind of things, or things like Homer's writings and stuff like that, like the Iliad and the Odyssey. We've always been compelled to these complex narratives and Shakespeare and such, because it does force us to answer questions that wouldn't have
Right.
come up any other way, and make us think, well, how would I have processed this?
Right.
How do and surprisingly relating to a character that you're like, that's not a great character. Why do I relate to them? Like there's
Hmm.
things in
Exactly.
that comes out. I think there's an aspect of that you work it out in your mind, that that's what compels me for a lot of my favorite games. Yeah, I like
Same
the
here.
fun aspects, but there's parts of the complexity, like in a Final Fantasy game, that
Hmm.
as you explore people's motives for doing things, you're like, oh no, I'm starting to relate to some people I don't think I'm supposed to here, but there's some good reasons behind that. Or
Right.
or others that you're like, the grayness that's happening here, I need to explore that for myself, because there's more here than meets the eye on these characters.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's how I usually come up with articles. I'll either watching a game or I'm playing a game and I'm like, that relates biblically. That reminds me of this Bible verse or this Bible story. And I'm like, no one is seeing this. Am I the only one that connected a Final Fantasy 7 with, like, I wrote one about Cloud and facing his past, and I'm like, I saw that and it reminded me of this Bible verse about how we were used to be Christians. I think that's how I used to write it. I think I forget, I have to reread my own stuff, but I connected it and I was like, but sometimes I think like, no one's seeing this. Am I the only one that's like, even with anime, sometimes I'll watch an anime and I write for Beneath the Tangles and I'll write a post and I'm like, am I really the only one that just noticed that click? Like I didn't click for anybody else, but maybe it did and nobody would like, they didn't like, it didn't make sense to them or something, so I don't know. So like it didn't connect the dots, and when I connected it, they're like, oh yeah, oh, and I'm like, yeah, it was there, I just didn't see it. But yeah, so catching up to my articles, trying to post more on social media. I'm on TikTok now, but just like posting clips, game clips. I'm not gonna like do a dance or something, so you won't catch me doing any of that nonsense. But at least like gameplay clips, and I'm trying to do like gameplay clips with like Bible verses. There's a couple people on Instagram that do these awesome like just anime clips. They're like 10 seconds and they put a Bible verse and they have like thousands of followers, and a lot of people, it's a cool way to like see a Bible verse. So you're reading scripture, but then you see like this cool little anime video in the background. I'm like, cool. So I want to do that, but with video games. So I just got to do it. Um, and what else? I want to build out more of my community, like on Twitch. I want to stream a little bit more. Nothing full time or whatever, just to do it. And just sometimes people jump in and they chat with me. So I guess all those three things. And then also I want to eventually have a Patreon just to get something from from what I'm doing. So, at least I just have it out there and then just promote it. And I like Patreon because you don't have to do like a ton. It's just like a place where people can donate. So I don't have to like push it a lot. I just have it there. I made it. You want to donate, here it is. And then every now and then I can do a little something special for the Patreon donators, followers or whatever. So yeah, so just trying to, if when I can do all of that, I try to do what I feel God is calling me to do. And then once I do that, then I'll try to see what else is next. So I'm like, let me just do these things and then I'll see like what do I do next. I don't like to have like 15 things to do. I'm like, I have God asked me or put on my heart to do these bunch of things. Let me just do this and then I'll see what he wants me to do next. But yeah, so I try to like catch up. So there's always something else you can do. So it's just I find it fun. I enjoy it. So Yeah.
I think that one of the things that I find is like I've got a notes like on my phone that's
Yeah.
like 4,000 items long of the things that I want to get around to doing or
Oh
things.
yeah.
But here's the funny thing. I don't know about for you. You ever watch the Seinfeld episode where he like wrote a joke in the middle of the night and then the next morning he's like he can't even understand what it
Oh
is
yeah.
he was doing. Like there's times I'll look back and be like, where was I planning on going?
Yeah, me too. I've done that. Yeah. I have
I'm
to like write
sure.
it out like in a lot of like not a lot of detail, but I gotta make like a little outline because if not, I'm like, I don't know what I wanted to write here. I don't get it. This doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm like, delete. Yeah.
Have you ever had one though that like you had that and you're like, I don't know what I was supposed to do with this. Like it'll for me, it'll be
Yeah.
a verse and like a random phrase. I'm like, I don't even know where this is gonna come together. So I'll go and I'll read that verse and I'll just start reading around for context. I don't know if this is where I was going to end up going with it or not. But then it
Yeah.
ends up being something at the end. I was like, that almost came together like I meant for it to. I don't
Yeah. 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 Our brains are very interesting. Like that's why I've learned that over the years. Like I don't have like a great method. I just start writing. And that's my problem. Like I'm looking at the blank WordPress page and I'm like, I don't know how to start this. But once I do, I know that just words will start coming out and then I'll stop and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wrote 3 paragraphs. That's amazing. I don't even know how I wrote them. But once it's like you get in, I think people call it a flow state or something. You just get into like the flow and then you come back and be like, I did something. I made a thing. So the thing was made. So I was like, so that's what I've learned to do. I'm like, I'm just gonna write stuff, or I'll write an outline at least, and then I just have like some bullet points, so I know like what am I gonna write about? Oh, I have points. Okay, I'm gonna hit on those points, and then I've learned that from other bloggers. Like they write out little outlines, and I've been told too, you should always write like an outline. I'm like, okay, so I'll just do the outline. So and it helps, it works. The outline does help me a bit because I'm scatterbrained. So once I have my little outline, I'm pretty good to go.
So if
Yeah,
someone, hopefully that one of the desires from this is to inspire others to come forward with maybe their ideas for ministry and
yeah,
encourage like just regular everyday people can have these huge impacts if you just obey the calling. And
right.
but you do have to start. You have
You
to
have to start.
decide to start. So if you were able to just say something to people that are feeling compelled as they hear this conversation. They're thinking about, I've got a lot of things too. I can relate to what Michael's sharing in terms of all these ideas and all these passions, but I'm really struggling with just getting started because it won't be as perfect as I want when I start out or
Mhm.
finding that time. Like there's always going to be 1,000 reasons why you can't get started. What would you say to a person who's feeling like God is telling them you should do something now? This is your confirmation to go and do
Yeah,
the thing. What would you tell them?
that's a great question. I love it. I love it. I love it. So I hope this does inspire people. So I like helping people to do that. So yeah, so I've over the years I've matured and thank God for God that He's helped me to mature me and help me to think through this. So I would say, like you said, like just start. And I know it sounds easy, like easy to say, but I would start with like something practical. That can make it more practical. Like think of what you want to do first, like write it down. Writing always helps. So type it out, write it down. Like what exactly do you want to do? Who's your audience? You want to do YouTube? Now with all the technology we have, there's so many things you can do. You can do streaming, you can do YouTube, you can be a TikToker, you can do blogging, you can do all of them. You can do, I don't know, like you can do art. Maybe you want to draw a comic book or something. You want to make a board game, whatever. Like you can do a Kickstarter. Like literally, like you pick a thing like your interest, and then there's like ways you can do it. So maybe you're really good at video and you want to do YouTube. I'm not good at video at all. I don't do video. Like I'll try to do it, but I'm not good at it. And honestly, I don't plan on like taking a class and a course and learning it. Like I know like what I'm good at and I stick to that, and I'm like I cannot be good at, you can't be good at everything. You can't be like an amazing streamer, an amazing YouTuber, a TikToker, a blogger, right? Like you can't do everything amazing. So you just gotta like pick your strengths and you're like, I'm good at these two things. And then sometimes they kind of connect to each other. So maybe you're good at video, and then that means you can be good at Instagram, at TikTok, and YouTube, like all three, and you can knock out all three, and streaming, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe you want to write and that's just what you do. You write and then you can just share your stuff in Facebook or somewhere, anywhere, and you just share your stuff. Maybe you want to do a podcast and you like to talk like me, but I don't have a podcast, but I should. But yeah, and you make a podcast and that's all you do is podcast. I know that there's ministries that they just their geeky stuff and they just do podcasts. They don't do nothing else. They don't have a blog. They have like a website that looks okay, but they just do podcasts. They have like 500 episodes and that's what they do, you know. So yeah, you just got to pick your thing. You don't have to do all the things. Just pick one or two and just do it. Come up with a name, make a logo. You don't even need a logo. You can go on Fiverr and hire somebody to make you a logo for $5. Um, yeah, and then you just do stuff. You know, it's gonna be just accept it's gonna suck. It's gonna be terrible. You're gonna hate it. But it's just like everything. It's like the more you do it, you just get better. You can't get better at something if you don't do anything. So, for example, like if you're gonna go to the gym, like the first time you're gonna be like, I don't even know what to grab. I don't know what this machine does. Once you go on the 50th, the 20th time, you're gonna be like, I know where to go. Yeah, you start lifting weights, you do it, and you just get better at it. So it's the same with cooking, with any discipline, any career. You know, nobody is really good. And when you ask them, how did you get so good? You're like, I've been doing it for 15 years. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's how you're good. But you've been doing it that long, you know? So nobody said like, yeah, I started yesterday and and I got it. I figured it out. I have 1 million followers, or I have making all this money, or I'm doing this amazing thing. And I just started yesterday. You can too. You can start. Yeah, you can start tomorrow. You know, like, nah. Like, it's usually people that have some kind of credibility or following or something have been doing it for like a long time. And you're like, how did you get that good? Because you've been doing it for a long time. So you got to start today and then just do a little bit every day. It's going to suck, except it's going to suck. You're going to suck. And then eventually it'll get better. And then you're going to be like, oh, I wasn't that good before, but now I'm pretty good because you've been doing it for like 6 months, 8 months, a year, whatever. And you start seeing other opportunities and you start trying other things. You start seeing what works. This, I was doing this, it's not working, I'm gonna drop it. And it organically gets better, you know, like on its own. Like you just got to do it, you know.
I'll tell
There's
you another thing
no
that
shortcut, you
I
know.
really appreciated was, when when we were very early on, and you and I are both in very parallel lanes here in
Yeah,
the gaming and God space. And
yeah,
it could have, when we started, doing our stuff and we became aware of each other, very much could have been oh, so you're trying to get a little piece of my little tiny corner of the world. But you were so welcoming and you were very, very upfront with being supportive and saying, what you should do is you should do this. Also, this would make your stuff a little bit better. And you were an informal mentor to us in a lot of ways. And
oh,
we
that's
wouldn't be
cool.
where we are if it wasn't for the influence you had on us. I
Oh,
would
praise
consider
God,
you
that's
the
cool.
most influential person to what we have been able to generate and
Oh,
create.
I'm happy
We
to
wouldn't have the
I'm
stuff that we have now without your support. So I would
oh,
also
thank you,
say
happy.
what I love about this and the fact that we're all fellow believers
Yeah,
working to reach others for Christ is what you did for us. And I know that a lot of the people out there, you mentioned like Beneath the Tangle, some of these wonderful groups, like they will absolutely be supportive of those that are trying
yeah,
to join in this work. To if you just say, hey, I'm looking for a couple pointers, like you were so open and upfront with here's where I'd start, and it
yeah,
helped us a lot. And so I would say one of the blessings about this space for us is none of us are competing with
yeah,
each
yeah,
other.
for
We
nothing.
are all competing for souls.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, we're all on the same team trying to
Mm-hmm.
reach, yes, maybe certain pockets of similar individuals, but the algorithms, what they are out there, the more of us that there are doing this, the better. So even if you're going to work in a space that's similar, parallel to some of
Yeah.
these things, what's so powerful about this is we're all tag team partners here
Yeah, yeah.
working
And you're
on the
gonna reach people that I won't reach and vice versa. Like it's not like there's 50 million people visiting my blog a day or something, it's like, so yeah, you're gonna reach people that and vice versa. And there's so many people, you're gonna talk in a different way. Yeah. And like you said about more people doing it, the more it's shown, like on Twitch, I don't know when it came out. I don't want to say recently because I don't know. But they have a hashtag now called Christian hashtag. And that's probably because there's a lot of Christians now on Twitch. And then they said, we got to make a hashtag for these people. And it's not because, you know, platforms like Twitch or Kick or whatever, like they don't care if you're Muslim, Christian, atheist, Buddha. They don't care. They're just like, hey, there's a lot of you people, and people are clicking watch. Like, hey, like you're making us money. You're pushing our content. Let's make a hashtag. You know, like they help. They help. You're helping them. They help you. You know, so like they can't ignore it. Like it's there. You know, it's like anime or says you can't say, oh, anime is for whatever. It's a thing now. You know, so it's been a thing for a long time. You know, so you can't ignore it. It's here. You know.
Well, I want to say there's something around like 60% of the world games. And then when you
Yeah.
look at like America, for example, like over 50% of people call themselves Christians by faith. Like there's crossover there. And
Yeah. There's a
same
lot of
thing in the
crossover.
realms of anime and these other areas. Like we are partaking in these same things. There's Christian Star Wars fans, there's Christian anime fans, Christian games.
Yeah. Star Trek,
And
everything. Board
and
games.
it's at this time in humanity, we're blessed that we have the opportunity that we can have the opportunity like on Twitch and those things where it's recognized and given us an opportunity to find each other. And because of that, we should be super supportive to encourage everyone we can in those spaces because you never know which person's going to be the one that reaches, like for example, what you write could reach someone in my own family that doesn't even follow me. You just never
Yeah.
know who's going to be the right voice to
Yeah,
reach.
you never know. I don't know. I don't know who's reading my stuff. It's sometimes I don't even get likes or comments. It just, oh, this article got 20 views. I don't know. I don't know who read it. Somebody read it. I don't know. They didn't say anything. So, I would love if people were to comment more, but you
An
never
old
know.
article from
Getting
6
emails.
years ago, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden you're like, this got a lot of like 20 people read this last week. What
Yeah, yeah. Or
what's
I'll get
wrong
random
with it?
emails. I don't know if you get like
Why did
emails
it
or
become
stuff.
popular?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you don't know who will reach out to you in a year and like, I read this thing that you wrote like 5 years ago, and I'm like, you read that? And oh, it was amazing, and I'm like, I didn't think
I
it
don't
was
even
that
think
amazing,
that was
but
a good one. I'm
yeah, right, yeah. And I've had those emails, and I'm like, oh, that's praise God, that's so cool, So random people just reach out. You never know who's gonna read. That's why I like to produce a lot of stuff because you don't know who's gonna read it when it's out there. I don't know where it goes, so you
so
know.
Michael, where all can we find gaming and God? You've got you mentioned social media and your different things. Tell us where we can find all of your different works.
Sure. So gamingandgod.com, that's the main hub. And then I'm on Facebook. I believe, yes, the same Gaming and God. On X, Twitter, whatever. I'm still calling it Twitter. um, it's a Games and God because somebody took Gaming and God. I was like, oh, great name. I forget who took it.
Rude.
Yeah, I was like, really? So it's Games and God. And then on Instagram, same thing. Someone took my name, so I put gaming underscore and underscore God. So it's not the best, but I was like, I'm sticking with my name. So I just put the little underscore.
Tired
So
of changing it for
yeah,
everybody.
I'm not changing it. So I was gonna put like God in gaming or something, but I'm like, that's it's the branding is confusing. I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna stay with it. So yeah, and then I'm on TikTok. I think there I am gaming and God, but I hardly ever. I posted like a few things on TikTok just to see what happens. So I'm not like really into TikTok. I don't even have it on my phone. So I just threw some stuff up there to see what happens.
I don't have it on my
Yes,
phone for
on
its
those.
entirely different reasons. So
Yeah,
that way they don't know when I'm at KFC or something and they're tracking me.
exactly. Yeah, right. Yeah, and then I'm on Twitch also. I think I'm gaming and God there too, but I don't stream that much. I don't have a schedule, so yeah. So I'm not. I have to make one. I should at least stream like once a week consistently. But yeah, I have a child that doesn't care when I stream, so
They
it's a little hard to
they
do that.
they
So
do tend to make streaming difficult and
yes, yes, for sure.
exciting, but only for viewers that are looking for train wrecks, is what I found. So then that's usually mine abruptly would cut off because my daughter would become hyper involved. And I'm like, well, all right. Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I gotta go. Click,
It's over now.
Yeah, or if yeah, my
Unless
wife
you
keeps
want to,
telling me.
unless you want us to play Paw Patrol for your entertainment, this part is over now.
Yeah, this part is over now. Nah, I hear you.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you so much for joining us. You've been
you're
such
welcome.
a huge help for us. You've been an inspiration for us. You've been a friend to us. And I really appreciate you giving us some time this morning to get a chance to celebrate everything that you're doing in your space and what you've done for us, but also just share that continuing mission for gaming and God and all the places that we just discussed. So thank you for joining us. We really appreciated it. Gaming and God, you know where to find Michael now and his work. And we really appreciate the opportunity to put a spotlight on the unique and special ministry that you're doing
Thank
Michael,
you.
and God in Gaming. So this was Finding God in Video Games, our ministry spotlight. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.